welcome to a hold on, volume's messed up. Volume getting messed. Okay, see. All right, here we go. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Blackout Tips podcast. I'm your host, Rod, joined as always by my co-host,
Karen.
And we are live on a Saturday, ready to do some feedback. This is the episode where we talk about all the things that you had to talk about throughout the week, okay? So you guys left comments. Looking in the show notes, that's how you can leave your feedback. You can leave comments on Spotify, the website, vote in the polls, email us, all that stuff, voicemail as long as they're 2 minutes or less. All that stuff is how you get in contact with us, and then we hear your contact and we give you feedback here. The official weapon of the show is
the taser,
and the unofficial sport,
bullet ball,
and bullet ball extreme.
Yeah, and also if y'all want to see our lovely faces, like if you somebody you like, I love Rod and Karen, I listen to the podcast, but I've never seen their faces. What do they look like? Go to crowdcast.io and subscribe to the Black Guy Who Tips. And you know what you also can do? Them notes that's in the podcast that Roger puts in and most of y'all don't pay attention to no way. The link is also in there.
Yep. So make sure you guys do all that. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. There's people that give us money on our website, theblackouttipps.com. You look on the right-hand side. If you have a phone, turn it sideways. And you can donate to the show through PayPal. You can give us money at any amount and at any time, and you can repeat it. You can do it one time. It doesn't matter, but you all get a shout out.
May I have your attention? You are now listening to Charlotte's Own, Rod and Karen. We welcome the good folks who time to the Black Guy Who Tips.
That's right. Today's a new day and new pay. All right, let's get into it. We got Kimberly, aka Falcon Diva, Kevin W, Jason F, Derek LW, Ken M, Lawrence C, Zachary from the Living Corporate Podcast, Tanisha G, Dostry J, Preston, aka Teen Dro, the Slang of Ages Podcast, Celeste, Vaughn B, Adam S, and lastly, Mariano. That's everybody that hooked us up this week. We appreciate y'all for the money. Okay, we're going to spend it for sure. And we also have people that gave us 5-star reviews. We got 3 new 5-star reviews this week. This one is from El Hanzo, who says, my first rating shouldn't have taken so long. This podcast is a must listen for me. Whenever something big happens, I can't wait to hear Rod and Karen's take on it. Their passion is unmatched, funny, smart, compassionate, loving. Rod and Karen are hands down 2 of the best in the podcast game. Stay blessed. Thank
you.
We shall try. And we appreciate you. And honestly, whenever you are able to leave us a 5-star review, it's right on time. Every time. Okay? Don't feel bad. You can now join all the other people and smugly judge everybody else.
Yeah, because you know what? Then you have the right to judge. You are being judged. If you have not left us a 5-star review, know that secretly you are being judged.
Yeah, I hope you feel bad. Okay? Now leave us a 5-star review. You don't got to feel bad no more. It's that easy. Updated review still of the podcast is from Jessica Kane. Rod and Karen are the most prolific podcasts I listen to. Sometimes I miss episodes. But every episode they put out is greatness. I've been listening for over 10 years, and the Blackout Tips is the best. I can always rely on them for at least one I need to pause because I'm laughing too hard moment, if not more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. We appreciate you. And
we do.
I remember Jessica King of the Librarians.
Come on.
Bill Till leaves a 5-star review. He says, still my favorite podcast. Taking us back to slavery was on point. I hear you, Karen. I hear you. And I vote. There is no other podcast like the Blackout Tips. It's hilarious, insightful, fun, and always puts me in a good mood. Rod and Karen create 5-star content so regularly that I am spoiled. Love all that you do, and I'm so happy for the success you built. Keep doing your thing, and thank you for sharing it with us. Thank you, Bill. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We appreciate everybody who leaves a 5-star review, and in addition to just helping us with the algorithm and all that stuff, most importantly, man, just lets us know that y'all appreciate us. And I think anyone that's been, podcast is kind of like a relationship. We've been doing this for so long, and you just want to be appreciated. You just want to know that the person still cares, and we love that y'all still care. All right, let's get into some comments on our website. We'll start with some music first. Honestly, who has better musical transition than us? I don't think so. Nobody. Episode 2728, double Juneteenth. We had one comment. Appia, it was our feedback show. Appia says, my parents help us with the kids a lot, and I'm thankful, but now that we have kids, I understand them honestly less. I was an only child, and we have two. My parents did put a lot of pressure on me, and now as a mother myself, I wonder why. That I was the best in school was extremely important to them, and their love felt conditional. More achievement, more love. Yes, I was in therapy to work on this. With my kids, of course, I want them to have success in school, but my love for them is always there. And if they are the best or not isn't important to me. It's not like the kids who act like robots in school have the most fulfilling life later or even the most success at work. That kid is just the best rule follower. When something goes wrong, we are way more relaxed than my parents, the grandparents, or the kids. The kids are also aware of it, and they point it out multiple times. I think I admire the fact that your parents seem to know you as a person and are interested in what you are interested in, Rod. Yeah, I think we don't have kids, but if we did, I think, at least from my picking up on what everybody talks about, it seems like everybody tries to correct what they feel were the mistakes of their parents, and sometimes it can lead to, my personal opinion is it doesn't matter how you raise your kids. They're going to have issues because they're going to be humans. The world is going to affect them. And whatever you choose, they will grow up and have some version of, my mom was like this. And it's something that, because you're a human being, we're not perfect and we're not robots. It's just something we can't control. And you just hope that it's not too bad, so like a lot of people in my generation, especially in America, especially Black people, we're having kids now. We're not hitting our kids because we were hit when we were kids. And so we want to find another way because we know the pain or the trauma or the PTSD of being hit, the fear of your parents, and balancing that with love. And, it goes deep psychologically all the way back to like slavery to me, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And so we are trying to break those cycles, but that may mean that you end up with a different type of kid. A lot of parents now want their kids to have a lot of autonomy. You may have those kids grow up and be like, my parents should have been a little bit more restrictive because they had me doing stuff at an age where I really didn't understand it and I wasn't ready for it, and they were too much of my friend, and I needed discipline, and now I don't have any. And they may raise their kids differently. I think the internet and social media is going to change a lot of that. Mm-hmm. I'm noticing the younger kids now are getting off of social media more than the adults. Like my generation is on Facebook and Twitter and shit more than the kids are, because the kids are like, this shit is tracking us. It's not really freedom. And they're aware of all the, the negative impulses that come from it. So,
and they grew up in it. Our generation did not grow up in it, and I think that makes a difference too.
Exactly. And they grew up with their parents turning that camera towards them and putting them up there with them not having a choice. So when they get old enough to have a choice, their choice may be, I don't want to be on the internet. I don't want the world knowing my life. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what your kids decide, but ultimately it's the kids that will decide how good of a parent everybody is. Mm-hmm. The poll was, we had one more comment on YouTube. Janetta says, after I had COVID a year ago, thanks to the vaccine I had at the time and Paxlovid, my worst symptoms lasted 3 days tops. My cough lingered over a month. Keep an eye on that, especially if it's a gnarly cough. Yeah, my cough is gone pretty much. So, but yeah, I definitely feel you. It's what one of my side effects was that I hadn't heard anybody talk about, and I didn't even Google to see if it was common. For some reason, spicy food tasted way spicier to me for like a week or two. I don't know why, by the way. It just everything spicy was, and honestly,
spicy.
I loved it. Okay, my body has gotten too used to the spice.
Yeah, because we ate something and Roger was like, "This is too spicy for me." I was like, "Too spicy for you? What is happening?"
Yeah, and it was beautiful. I was loving it. It's been a long time since I had spicy food that made me be like, "Ooh, yes, the sting." That worked for me, but I recommend a follow-up appointment if that's the last symptom you have lingering, to see if it can be treated. Of course, doctor. You know, we got you. The poll was, have you had COVID yet? Yes or no? Yes. 49% of our audience, meaning the majority, 51%, has not had COVID yet.
That's good.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah, that is really good. And truth be told, I wonder out of that number, how many people, because it's out of that percentage that didn't have COVID, I think that percentage is smaller. It's going to be a percentage that had COVID, thought it was a cold, and just didn't know it.
Yeah, we can never know. We don't know, so but I agree. But meanwhile, on Spotify, the people with money, 61% have had it, 39% have not. And that makes sense because they have money, so they was out doing stuff.
What? They was going to all of the concerts. They was out. They was like, the streets is open, so
taking advantage of those plane ticket sales. I get it.
Come on.
Ocean's Gate got a BOGO sale. That was the Q&A. People left comments. Toy says, how is this company not shut down yet? Sci-Fi Chick says, hell no. Well, that's not very sporting, Sci-Fi Chick. I thought you liked science fiction.
It's in your name.
And James says, it's the Ocean Gate buy one get one sale cheaper than Bed Bath and Beyond. Yeah.
Bed Bath and Beyond still only gonna knock off 10%.
Yeah, it's definitely cheaper. Every sale is cheaper than Bed Bath and Beyond.
Like, this ain't no sale.
The next episode we did was taking us back to slavery. Mike Brown was the guest. We had guests this week. We had Mike, JL, and Simeon. It was a sausage fest, you know.
It was fun though.
Yeah, but we had a good time, you know.
Yeah, and y'all excuse my voice because, like I said,
no, please don't apologize.
Coughing phlegm. Sorry.
They don't have to deal with it. Okay, Then they don't have to go out. Listen,
that's true.
They know we had COVID. We don't even have to do this show then. Episode. No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
So they should be thankful. Episode 27, 29, taking us back to slavery. 2 comments. Cynthia writes in, man, Rod, you said the very thing I've been thinking about, the Jonathan Majors fiasco. First, when he had his first court appearance and his attorney submitted their evidence, including statements from eyewitnesses and people involved that night, folks online were like, why didn't they release this in the beginning? Why didn't he show the public this at first? And I immediately thought about Tory Lanez guilty ass, who tried to win the court of public opinion before he tried to win a court of law. And I was like, yeah, good play if he's actually trying to stay out of jail. Yeah, also, like, there's a PR image hit that comes with attacking a person that is accusing you. Even if it's a false accusation, you come leaking stuff and making them out to be like the liar, not in court, meaning just like in public opinion, it does have a taint to it that people typically seem to push back on. Even when he did this in a court of law, I still saw people trying to find a way that this was like weird, like their way of like trying to dismiss this, like it doesn't count. And what I found, trying to be neutral, trying to be unbiased, trying to just accept what people are saying in real time as it comes out, it feels to me, we'll find out, maybe what happened in that car, if his side of the story it has any relevancy, if they actually do have that evidence, if they're going to have those witnesses and video footage and stuff, maybe that woman did lie on him. You know, maybe he did get on that phone call with Megan Good or whoever the fuck was on that phone call. She said you cheating, got hysterical, and everything happened the way he said. And he goes home and she's tried to kill herself in his house, and the doorman is a witness and all this shit. Maybe that is true. And if so, that is gonna help him out on that night. Gonna help him out in the court of law dealing with this particular woman. Because people will go, oh, she just went crazy, or she had a psychotic episode, and she was so vindictive that she tried to get this man. That may be true. I don't want to say it's. I don't want to dismiss it just because people think he's a jerk, possibly. And then all that Rolling Stone shit with 40 people coming out and being like he's kind of an asshole, minimum. That may be true too, because it's hard to get a conspiracy of 40 people. Like, I always find it interesting when people are like so dismissive of this shit. Like, I mean, shit, he probably just a black man at Harvard or whatever the fuck, wherever he went to school. And I'm like, yeah, but 40 people is a lot of people though. Like, if you did if you try to do a deep dive on my life, you're not gonna find 40 people that all have the same story of me being an asshole. It's very unlikely. So it's possible that he is an asshole, but he didn't do this. And that is what that is what I have heard. The things I've heard is leading me to that, but we'll find out in the court of law, I guess. Because I don't think that shit from the Rolling Stone interview is going to be court of law shit. Mm-hmm. Like, I just don't think, like, a lot of it was whisper campaign stuff. But we'll see. I mean, if the prosecutors are savvy, I'm sure they're going to reach out to Rolling Stone and try to get in contact with the women that he used to date and stuff like that. I mean, that would be a smart prosecution angle, you know, to take his credibility down. Because if his defense team lied about the statements from his exes, that's pretty damning. You know, if they had them, if they falsified or had them sign some type of weird shit, that's pretty damning. So it just seemed like a very ugly situation, and I don't know how you walk out of this clean if you're Jonathan Majors at all. She says, then the Rolling Stone interview came out, and what really turned out to be a nothing burger, in my opinion, because a bunch of people who refused to go on record, but only admitted to him being an asshole, to which my immediate thought was, like you said, why ain't nobody say nothing about this man until now? Yeah, I do find that weird, because it's not people claiming to be a victim of him. It's just like he's a jerk. And I find all that weird in Hollywood, because I think if someone's a jerk, I don't know why, like, this man isn't in control of your destiny. If you were just his classmate and he was an asshole, I don't know why you would be like, I ain't gonna say nothing, you know? Like, but maybe that's how people work. Maybe they're scared or something. Mm-hmm. But it feels like a weird thing to be scared of, I guess. Like, for example, if I worked on game theory and I'm trying to think, if Gilbert Arenas came in and he was a real dick on the set, I don't feel the need to protect Gilbert Arenas. I wouldn't be like, man, I'm scared. You know, he got a podcast and he's big in this podcast industry. I'd be like, yeah, he was a dick to everybody. I didn't like working with him. Fuck it, you know? But maybe other people just don't feel that way.
No, and everybody don't function like that. And we also live in a society where some people live their lives void of confrontation. They will do whatever it takes not to have any form of confrontation.
But why would that stop now? Because, like, this is now a confrontation if you're coming out saying, actually, I always thought he was a jerk. He never was cool with me. We been saying he was whack, but we just never wanted to say anything in public. Well, now you are about to have a confrontation. Like, you're stepping in it now.
Yeah, they are. But the trick bag for them is now people going to want to find out who you are. Mm-hmm. You know, versus before you could feel that way. And like you said, you could basically go underneath the radar. But I do understand what you're saying now, because the thing is, people are going, why didn't you say nothing then? I mean, I get it. But with you coming out now and Rolling Stone, somebody somewhere will find out who you are. And if you're a person that's void of confrontation, you're going to have confrontation now, whether you wanted it or not. So I'm not trying to funny you. If you're a person that's like, I don't want any confrontation.
Yeah, it
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like why even say anything now?
Right.
I mean, he's in trouble, and like him being rude to you on the set of a movie seems completely different than if he tried to strangle somebody in the back of a cab. To me, those are so weird. I don't know. It feels weird to me.
Yeah, yes. And the thing is, a lot of times when you talk about these things, you talk about victims and, you know, people that are on the other side of abuse. Sometimes it's a very mucky area, and sometimes people don't know where to draw lines. This right here is completely different than rape, because a lot of times when you start talking about this stuff, people hear victims. A lot of times people jump to the extreme of that thing. And it's one of those things with.
Well, he's not accused of rape, for the record.
Okay,
I just want to be clear in case people listening.
Yes, yeah. I'm saying people are actually saying. I've seen people online when you talk about victims, they always use victims and they always look at it from that extreme perspective versus looking at victims as what exactly happened. And it's okay for me to say, well, and question, because when it comes to rape, it's so much gray and complication behind it, and people feel so many ways that a lot of times people conflate the two and cross the two over. That anytime you talk about victims, a lot of people take it to that extreme, and sometimes you can't even have a true conversation about what's happening because they want to shut the shit down and be like, well, it's this extreme thing where you go, well, that's not the reality of what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we do operate in extremes in public discourse, but that's kind of why I understand I understand going to a court of law with whatever your evidence is, because I just don't think the public discourse we're way more quicker to be like, you did that shit, and it doesn't really matter anything we hear that is anything other than you did it.
Correct.
So I'm not. And like I said, we may find out that the prosecution has evidence that he did do it. So I really don't know. I just think it's messy, and this is what happens. This is one of the reasons I don't cover the details of these things. Right, I don't read one of the reasons I don't read the articles and stuff on the show anymore, because I found this stuff to be so much about confirmation bias. I found myself caught up in it. I found myself declaring people guilty I found myself declaring people guilty that were later found out to be innocent. I found myself wanting to root for people and root against people and thinking that, justice is always saying the person did it and stuff. And that's not really fair. And that part is not my job. We'll find out hopefully in the court of law, and maybe not even then. So we'll see. But yeah, the Rolling Stone article, I did read it. I just didn't read it on the show. He says, according to my friends who work in the industry, a big part of attaining success is being liked and likable. I just don't see how majors rise to this level of stardom by being a total dick to everyone he ever knew. But maybe it's different for men. I don't know. Yeah, I think also that method acting shit, people like hide behind that. Like, he's just a very serious actor. And it's like, well, I don't care that you're playing a fucking Civil War pilot. You don't get to yell at me over the craft services table. I don't play that shit. That's not to say he isn't guilty. Clearly, there's some kind of altercation that night. Majors may also indeed be an asshole, but the Rolling Stone piece wasn't a smoking gun for me that it was for other people. Well, I think that, like I said, that's the confirmation bias, because what I think the Rolling Stone piece did is it's a sleight of hand, which is essentially a bunch of evidence came out from his side that he may not have done what he is accused of that night. And then the Rolling Stone put out an article that says he's an asshole. And then we're supposed to go, oh, he's an asshole? Well, he must have done it, even though nothing in this article has refuted the evidence that he presented that night. We're supposed to be like, it doesn't matter. He's capable of doing it because he's an asshole and because he's been accused of shit in the past from people that don't want to go on the record, that haven't filed police reports, that don't really seem to have any evidence other than the kind of whisper campaign right now. But it's still, I read it and I still came away from that Rolling Stone article, because I did go read it. I came away feeling like very icky, like something's not right with that dude. That many people had stories. I still think that is, unless you're, and I've seen people try to disguise, and they probably read the headline or not, but whatever. I've seen people try to throw it away as if talking to 40 people, even off the record, is somehow just complete smoke and mirrors. I don't believe it. I just don't believe that.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's too many people. So I don't, that held on to that for years and then collaborated to take this dude down apropos of nothing. Like, it just seems like a lot right there, but who knows? Also, as a person who's worked in communications for government agencies, I'm certain the NYPD has its own PR machine that will play stories for them. So honestly, I think both sides are using the media to try to sway public opinion, and both sides are probably on some bullshit in one way or another. At this point, I wish they would just leave us out of it until the trial starts. Well, we'll see. That trial's going to start one day, and we'll find out more shit. Evie says, I hope Clarence Thomas get the most painful hemorrhoids and never have peaceful bowel movement for the rest of his heinous life. Let's see if there's any comments on.
And also, before we move on, when I was going back and I was making that analysis before about talking about the discourse online, a lot of it, which is comes to the bottom, a lot of it is projection, and there are a lot of particularly women who feel like things like this may have happened to them, not through him but through other people, and they felt like they didn't get any justice. They felt like they didn't want any confrontation, and they felt like they had to hide. And I think now with these people coming out, it has given them the strength to quote unquote support these people, which I understand. But a lot of their support is coming from baggage that's unrelated to this situation altogether. So they go, well, what happened to me happened to me, so it must have happened to you, regardless of if it really happened or not, because we were not there, And so I think that's what a lot of that extremism I was talking about goes to, that extremism of victim and victimhood for a lot of people, and they bring a lot of that online, and those two things are like apples and oranges, in my opinion. Like when you start talking and getting into the weeds of these things,
I think,
like you said, it's very gray and messy, and people don't want to admit that.
I think also we have to take a lot of shortcuts because we don't know everything. So, there's a lot of assumptions that have to be made in the absence of having any real evidence, and in the absence of having people that go on record. So, the Rolling Stone took 3 months to talk to 40 people. They said they had like 24 people that alleged that there were some levels of abuse that he did. Now the thing is, when you go read it, because when you're thinking abuse,
right
there, and this is in the wake of supposedly him doing strangling a woman in the back of a car, Uber or whatever. When they say abusive behavior, I'm thinking, oh, he's fucking hitting women and all this other stuff behind the scenes. And I think they had one person that he physically abused an ex, according to one of the stories. But then the other story was he emotionally was abusive to a romantic partner, which is sort of nebulous and hard to prove. I don't like, it's not even like, that's tough. And I hate that anyone would go through emotional abuse, but it's also damn near impossible to prove, because what are you going to say? You can't really call the police on like, yeah, he's emotionally abusing me. People don't even really respect that. So that's very tough.
It happens, right?
Yeah. So those are the two that you would have thought that, in my opinion, if I was writing a story about this dude and a pattern of abuse, those are the stories I would delve into, those specific to exes. But instead it turned into like, and people didn't like him on the set, and people didn't like him at his school. And to me, I'm like, now you're just painting a pattern of he could be an asshole. That is different to me.
Yes, it is.
I'm not saying it's unrelated, but it is different than what this case is about. So we'll see what happens when the trial starts, because I think everything we're saying now is just speculative and going off of vibes. And in a society where women have not been believed and are not normally believed,
correct,
many of us just err on the side of believing women, or believing the victims in this case, or believing the people that, off the record say this guy's an asshole, because in addition to it being great content, it just is easier and it makes us feel good to be like, yeah, I'm on the right side. And if it comes out later that he didn't do this thing that night, or a court can't find him guilty, we'll deal with the cleanup then. All right. My mom left a comment. Awesome show. Mike's energy was so palpable. A conversation between friends, so funny and entertaining. Thank you.
Thank you. We love him.
Yeah. Mike Brown. And then the poll was, do you find the writer's strike to be relatable? Yes or no? 90% of people said yes. 10% said no. Yes, I'm surprised it wasn't less, honestly. Like, I'm surprised it wasn't more people find it unrelatable.
Yeah, I find it relatable too, because most people at their jobs, if the average person is not in a union, a lot of people wish they were in unions, because if they were, they would have. Yeah,
but that's one of the reasons I thought people would say it was unrelatable. Like, I wish I had a union. Y'all at least y'all got a union. When the people in my job getting underpaid, we just all getting underpaid, and there's nothing we do about it. But 10% only 10% thought it was unrelatable.
Yeah, and also it's one of those things too where, got a small audience. They're like, hey, nigga, this is gonna fuck up my TV. This is gonna fuck up my entertainment, with y'all on strike.
Yeah, but once again, is that relatable? That's different than finding that's completely different than finding it relatable. I just wondered if people thought it was relatable, because during that show, what we were talking about is like, when you see these people who are, I worked on this TV show, I won an Emmy, I have all this prestige and fame, but I need my money. Some people are rich that are writers, and they're like, hey, we need to strike. A lot of people are finding that to be somewhat unrelatable. The fact that writers out there with very funny signs, some people are finding that like, oh, it can't be that bad. Y'all making jokes, So I just was wondering what but I'm glad that it was that high, and the people with money on Spotify, it was less relatable to them, because many of them probably are working at the top of whatever industries they're at.
Right, they on them boards.
Yeah, so they probably against the strike. They like, strike. Y'all niggas better get back to work.
Get to work.
I don't got time for this striking bullshit. So 68% of them thought it was relatable. 32% did not find it to be relatable, and I get it. The Q&A, they're trying to take us back to slavery. Top Flosion says, our nation is reminding me of the Citadel of Ricks. Love the discourse on voting. I literally have living family members that took part in Montgomery bus boycotts. We aren't outnumbered. 5 stars. Raphael says, at this point, I just tune out anyone who was still on that voting. Is the answer BS? Seeing a New York Dem rep tweeting such craps makes me wish she got primary. They all agents of chaos. Carrie says, that's so weird that you got elected and I like voting ain't the answer.
Bitch, how do you think you got your job?
Like, do your job. Harry says the right Reverend Dr. Sister Karen Morrow preached a word when she said that. Damn near had to pull the truck over and hit a praise dance. Jane says, obviously here in Texas, Governor Crazy Legs signed a law banning water breaks for construction workers. Dumbass.
I heard that, and it wasn't nothing but every 4 hours, so you get 2 breaks. So you're going to have people fucking dying.
Dumbass doesn't give a fuck about them, especially when they work over 100-degree weather. That's
right,
crazy. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, yes, and this is recently. And the thing is, they had a law that said if you had jobs outside, every 4 hours it's mandatory that everybody takes a 10-minute water break. So basically, that's 2 water breaks in an 8-hour shift, and that makes sense because it's nothing for down in Texas for it to be triple digits, 120, 125, 130, once you factor in a heat index. And they was like, and what happened, and not so funny, a lot of them, kind of like Charlotte, a lot of the larger cities that actually care about those people be like, hey dog, we can't have people out here passing out this fucking heat. And then they pass this law talking about it's gonna affect some business shit. Bitch, this ain't got nothing to do. You think these 20 minutes a day is gonna fucking matter at the end of the day? No, you're just evil for the fact that to be evil.
I don't get it. Like, why? What was the other side of this?
They did it because they could, and that's not funny. They did it because there's a lot of brown and Mexican people that probably do a lot of that outside work, so he don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I would like to know who was lobbying this. The businesses, maybe, like.
And sometimes, sometimes they're so evil. Sometimes I don't even think the business lobby for this. Sometimes they just do this shit just because they can, and they mean, and they evil.
I hear what you're saying, Karen. I just would like to know, because there's got to be an official person or group that put this into writing, and then they got it voted on, and then it got passed. So it's not just, I understand they might be evil, mean, blah, 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 but it's not that simple in that someone had to write down an argument for why 10 minutes every 4 hours was unacceptable. And I would like to know who the fuck that was. How much did they pay? If they're part of a lobbyist group,
follow the money.
It's deeper than just them being evil, because we've been known they was evil, but something has to happen to empower them to do certain things. And why do they think this is either a winning strategy or a strategy that won't cost them votes? Is it the gerrymander? I have a lot of questions.
That's true. And like you said, in order for it to get this point, like you said, somebody had to write it down, somebody had to push it through, somebody had to bring it. So I guarantee you some businessman somewhere, and like you said, if you follow the money, it would not be surprising if some of this is attached to some of them. Like maybe not them directly, but an associate, a friend, a family member, or somebody is actually benefiting and profiting from these extra 20 minutes a day.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just I always wonder these questions because I think I don't know. It just makes me wonder, like, how do they not think there's gonna be repercussions? And I guarantee it's in the details somewhere. And you know, I have to see that.
Yeah, my heart goes out to the people that are going.
Oh no, my heart goes out too. Don't even try to get them that first. I would assume everyone listening's heart goes out. Is there anybody?
No, I'm special.
We can make that the poll. Did your heart not go out to the people dying in the heat, in 110-degree Texas heat, and with no water breaks?
I am special. I am the only one that actually cares. The rest of you do not care at all.
And just as a point of fact, I don't really correct y'all when y'all do this. I don't really like arguing about it. I understand it's bigger than me, and there's pretty much nothing I can do because y'all hate Greg Abbott, and that's fine. I also think he's a piece of trash and hate him. But it always weirds me out the amount of people that like call him like Hot Wheels and Crazy Legs and shit like that because he's in a wheelchair. Because to me it feels a lot like ableism is okay when you don't like somebody, and the same thing with fat phobia and stuff. It's okay to diss somebody's weight when you like Jason Fatlock and shit when you don't like them. And I get that that's the law of the land. Like y'all, like for the most part, it's just if you don't like somebody, you can just kind of say shit. But I don't know, man. I just want to say personally, I don't participate in that, and that's why I don't call them those things, and I never have on the show or anywhere else you've heard me. Just because I honestly think it's like the lowest form of humor. I'm smarter and better and funnier than that. But then too, it just feels like that's what you're thinking about everybody in a wheelchair, but you can say it because you don't like this guy.
Oh, shows you how much I pay attention. I didn't pay attention to that shit. I just like, that's a mean ass man.
Yeah, I know you've never said it either, but I'm just saying, like, it's common parlance on social media to call him Crazy Legs, Hot Wheels, and shit like that.
And that's trying funny. I didn't even know the man was in the wheelchair. I just know he, like I said, he's just a mean ass man. So.
All right, but back to the comments. Bokai says, or get as close as possible, taking us to slavery. Roger says, I wonder what company's going to turn white only when we go back to segregation. Julie says, they've never stopped. Aaron says, my hands are too delicate to pick cotton.
Same.
Yeah, these are not my ancestors' hands, literally. Nelson says, they have their foot on the gas trying to take away our rights. Okay.
Yeah, I have family members that tell me about picking cotton, and the horror stories they tell me. I be looking at them like, bitch, no.
Episode 2730, Man versus Everyone. 6 comments on this one. The Pink Superhero says, love the fangirl section of a Little Girl Shop of Horrors. As a musical fan, I would love to hear more musical reviews from R&K.
That's Little Shop of Horrors is our jam.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm a musical person in general, and I'm not against them or anything, but I feel like I just know a couple of the tentpole musicals that I like when I was in high school, especially when in like drama class and stuff.
Yeah, you performed on stage.
But I never performed in a musical.
Okay.
But it's probably boring. It's West Side Story, it's Little Shop of Horrors, it's The Sound of Music for me. Those are my main ones. And then there's a bunch I never had access to like Disney shit, so I never got into like Mary Poppins and stuff like that. Right. So Rent. I'm not a musical person like that. When Hamilton was blowing up, I've never even seen that. I never got curious about it. So but yeah, the ones I do like, I love, but just I don't like that many. Appia says, I'm so glad that tipping is way less part of our culture here in Germany because
go ahead. And it's one of the things with listen to what you said about Appia. Tipping is weird Because, like I said, other parts of the world, they just get rid of it. Here, it's so embedded in our culture that when we try to get rid of it, people get offended that you're trying to fucking get rid of it. And you're like, you do know it's abnormal. That's why when America go to other countries and give them money, they are insulted. Like, the fuck you give me this money for? Just pay for the meal.
Mm-hmm. Obvious says, I find tipping etiquette confusing and also wrong. Pay your workers, companies. Right. But I noticed in the episode you would also prefer not having to figure it out every time. Yeah, we've said that many times on the show. I really think tipping should just be built in. Tipping shouldn't even be a thing. And the pay of your workers should just be built into the price of what you're selling.
Right.
And don't try to make me as a customer responsible for you paying your wages. I think we've said that many times.
Right.
Not to mention the average public citizen has a bunch of hangups, and your personal worth and the money that you make should not be caught up on those hangups. Because when you say we're going to leave it up to the public to tip you, well, the public is racist, it's misogynistic, right. It's xenophobic, it's homophobic, it's transphobic, it's a bunch of shit. Why the fuck are we letting them decide? Half of this goddamn country is voting against the rights of other people constantly. Why are we letting them decide that they can, what I'm worth? They might just see me come over and I look a little too black for them, or Muslim, or fat, or gay, or whatever, and they go, I'm not tipping that person. Or I'm gonna write Jesus on the receipt. Nah, fuck that. Pay me what I'm worth. Make the fucking eggs $15 instead of $10. And you know what's even more bullshit? In this pandemic, we watched them raise the prices. Yes! Everything costs a lot more than it cost before. If you order something, even if you order something for your house, like I just want an egg sandwich at the house, that egg sandwich is not the price it was before this pandemic. Meaning, they could raise the prices, people would pay the prices. We fucking know that for a fact now, and yet you still do not want to pay your goddamn employees. $1 of that couldn't just been going to the employees so that you don't have to even worry about the tip? That's fucking ridiculous, you know? Sean says, one of the wonderful things about living in Japan is that there is basically no tipping, and the only exceptions are medical doctors, although that is technically banned, and politicians, but that's more bribery than tipping. I hadn't heard about Matt and Trey's restaurant, Casa Bonita. I'm glad to hear someone has a good sense to fight against tipping in the U.S. I'm with everything you said except the idea of tipping a medical doctor. That feels super weird.
Right?
I don't know what that means. It's like, maybe you ain't going to get that kidney. 5%? That's it? You're going back on the waiting list. Sean says, also on Pitchfork versus Sword debate, while Pitchforks have reach in an overrated metric, I mean Tyson's reach was absolutely 10% below his competitors. In confined quarters, the reach is basically nullified. It still has benefits as a stabbing weapon over a slashing weapon in those close quarters, but the likelihood that it will get stuck on the wall makes it less than ideal in sad situations. The samurai sword is a slashing weapon, and although it seems like the owner uses it as a stabbing weapon, a good samurai sword could break the shaft of a pitchfork, but also maneuver around and end up getting a good slash. The lack of damage to the legs of the sword wielder, the best attack option for the pitchfork, or the hands of the sword wielder, the best attack option for the sword wielder, or the pitchfork wielder, it is confusing. Suggests that they were both flailing and knew very little about how to use the weapons. In The Mandalorian, the spear is just over 2 meters, which makes it less ideal for open field combat, but more effective in close quarters. All right.
Pitchfork versus sword debate, apparently.
Yep, Sean was in his bag. EVE says, since JL brought it up, I was wondering if the annual Bullet Bar episode is coming up. I look forward to it every year because no matter how many times I hear those clips with the commentary from you two and Justin, I laugh so hard. I cried, especially when you actually hear the guy say, but I have Bullet Ball. Yeah, we do need to do that soon.
And normally what happens, somebody that's fairly new be like, what the fuck is a bullet ball? And it restarts it up.
Angela says, awesome show. I love watching you all chop it up with JL. This country is a hot, racist, sexist, anti-LGBTQ plus mess. I've been watching these firings and show cancellations. I'm so sorry about Game Theory, Rod. You did an excellent job. I'm going to miss Black Lady Sketch Show. I'm surprised they let y'all go for as long as they did, right? I was thinking about this country, SCOTUS, and anti-affirmative action culture. That idiot Stockton Rush from Ocean Gate is the descendant of the two Declaration of Independence signers. His family name was on the buildings on one of the buildings at Princeton, and where he went to school. He broke laws, scammed and tricked people, didn't follow advice, and killed 5 people, including himself. Somehow, black folks getting a tiny bit of affirmative action is the problem. Besides the Coon Clarence and Ben Carson, I don't think any of us have maimed or killed anyone. Thanks for an amazing show. Hugs and kisses. Thank you, Angela. Yeah, and I talked more about game theory in detail on the pregame episode that we recorded yesterday with Justin. Well, that I recorded yesterday with Justin because he wanted to talk about it. I went into more detail there. And that's probably the best way to hear, like, how I feel about it, behind the scenes stuff. I want to say I actually made it the Just a Tip episode this week. So
on Spotify.
On Spotify.
Okay.
So if you're one of the Just the Tippers, the $5 a month people, we actually talked about that and Kiki Palmer on there. It's episode 372, You a Mom. And if you're a premium, it's in your feed. It wasn't like I was spilling too much tea behind the scenes stuff, but I just didn't feel like doing it again on this show. So that's the best way to hear my thoughts on all that. The poll was, which should win, Pitchfork or Sword? Oh wait, I'm sorry. Let me check the comments on Man vs. Everyone on YouTube, and of course the guest was JL Covant. Shadow Driver 1 says, I agree. I use YouTube like a podcast because I can't find the things I like on audio only podcasts. I multitask when I'm listening. I don't need the video. There's only one reason I'm a premium member, so I can listen with my screen off. Darn iPhone. Yeah, like I said, I think you just have to adjust to it. That's why we put our stuff on YouTube, even though it's not really blowing up there. Looking right now, in the last few weeks, our biggest video has 239 views, and I don't mean to scoff at that. I'm sure there's people that would love to have 239 views, but for us, it's not. You can't really monetize that number. There's no real money in it. There's not that much interaction and stuff happening over there, and we don't want to switch over to this like YouTube only type of podcast. But you have to acknowledge that is a huge part of the game, and the game is changing, or else you get lost. So that's why we have it over there.
That's true, and it's also one of those things where, like you said, you have to adapt and adjust. Because, like I said, I am softening my stance because, for a long time I had a hardcore stance on that. I was like, bitch, the fuck is this? That is not a podcast. Like a podcast needs to be on the podcast application. Like I didn't, like, in my mind, I could not understand the connection because in my mind, YouTube was videos. Like, yeah, you can put something on YouTube. It is a YouTube video. Like in my mind, I couldn't understand, but also have to understand it's a whole generation is raised on YouTube and they don't actually go to the podcast application. So it's a whole audience over there who find you through the YouTube.
Is the War Reporter podcast with Gaster and Shalewa? Because they put the video on if you go to Spotify to listen, it's a video.
Yes.
So, it's all this stuff is kind of morphing all the time, and you either do it or you get left behind, but the definitions are changing and the rigidity is only going to get people, basically it's only going to hurt you as a creator to be so rigid. It's the thing That's I'm true. Saying about the crowd work videos that JL hates on, but JL's a very rigid guy in general. I think maybe there's some almost self-destructive tendencies with his rigidity at times where you're like, how's that gonna be constructive for you? But it's the integrity and the line that he has chosen to live with. So if it hurts him, he's willing to take that pain because in his mind it proves something, right? And there's those kind of creators that are out there, but I feel like a lot of times it's a losing battle because the world is changing, and in the moment, if it's, listen, I don't want to burn my material, and crowd work is helping people let folks know you're doing stand-up without them showing up and then being like, you already told that joke before, then people are just doing that. It was interesting to have JL on this episode, and then the next day to have Simeon on, who does put out a lot of crowd work Instagram videos, and I respect both of them as comedians immensely. And to me as a fan, it doesn't really make a difference. Like I'm just like, that's JL's way and this is Simeon's way. But the point being rigid isn't necessarily going to be helpful.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And also it's one of those things where you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to adjust. You have to be willing to continue to allow your audience to grow. And you have to go where your audience is. So, from that perspective, I completely understand that, because the thing is, you kind of want to be, particularly as a creative, on many platforms as possible, so that your reach could be as large and as huge as possible. Because you have people, once they find a platform, they don't go to other platforms. So it's like, I'm here, and that's going to be it. So you have to go where your audience is.
And for the vast majority of people, you're not going to blow up. It's not going to work. So it don't really matter either way. But it just seems like, why limit yourself if you don't have to?
Correct.
And YouTube is just one of those things. As a podcaster, when people started telling me YouTube was the shit, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, y'all call that a podcast? But then it didn't take long for I was like, okay, well, that's what people call it now. What the fuck I'm gonna do? Change the world? Like, well, I refuse to acknowledge that y'all call it a podcast. I don't get anything out of that. Fuck it. We'll just takes a few more hours to put our shit on YouTube, then there you go. Now it's on YouTube.
Right.
You're welcome. Let's see. The poll was, which should win, Pitchfork versus Sword? 60% say Pitchfork, 40% say Sword. Let's see on Spotify what they believe. 49% Pitchfork, 51% Sword. So they closer than I thought, everybody. The Q&A
maybe that debate was right.
Yeah, the Q&A was Happy Juneteenth Part 2. Raphael says, I once practiced Bushido for 3 days before I realized that I had been scheduled for a toe surgery. I had to go with Sword, no need skill with the Pitchfork, only good for lynch mobs. A 3-day samurai got smoked. All right. Marvin, I couldn't fully follow that one. Marvin says, I think I'm going to have to start using this when people want to wish me happy Independence Day. Maybe I'll say Juneteenth Part 0. I'll say Juneteenth Part 2. We're keeping it going. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next episode. And this one, Simeon Goodson, 2731 Winger Shows. We had 3 comments. Ramsey D. Jenkins says, this entire episode was a Dracarys. 5 flaming stars. The comedy, banter, and jokes flowed like flowetry. Mr. Goodson has to come back to the show. The world has ended if black aunties can't shake their ass at Essence Festival.
Right.
Yeah, and
that's what I'm gonna do when I go.
And I do love when people are new to the show and they're first time guests, and the audience loves them, and we love them, and we have a good time. I thought we would with Simeon, honestly, just as like a periphery fan, like a person that knows him through social media a bit. I was like, he seemed like a really good time, a fun dude. Like, and then seeing his stand up, I was like, God, he's so fucking funny. And yeah, it was one of those things where I always meant to just kind of get around to asking him to be on the show, but shout out to Brandon Collins for making it happen. And yeah, we definitely got to have him back at some point.
Mm-hmm.
EVE says, India Ari is full of it. How can you express in one breath you love someone and then publicly shame them in the next? If she doesn't want to shake her ass in public, that's fine for her, but leave other people alone and let them have their fun.
Right. It's one of the things where they're not obligating you to be over there. They're not obligating you to participate. Any of that.
Yeah, I think we all can relate to the idea of some level of shame or indecency or not liking something or whatever. And I think for the most part, if it's just not harming anybody, if it's all consensual, I don't understand the point of like warning the world or like, I'm not with this. And you're not going to stop it.
You sure ain't.
Like, it's not like, oh, well, I guess India Ari had the power and the pull in the black woman game to get all the twerking to stop and get people to start not liking Megan Thee Stallion and shit. That's not going to happen.
And on top of that, it's very insulting because you have people that go, I am not my hair, but I also shake my ass. So, because black women love both of y'all music. So it's like one of them things where people are going, hey, dog, what are you saying about me as a fucking fan?
Yeah, it just feels like it's more about virtue signaling that I'm not this type of woman.
Correct.
And I mean, I guess that's your right. I'm not a woman. I can't tell you how to think. But I just don't think there's a shortage of shame around. Like, I don't think that there's like women have never thought about maybe I don't need to shake my ass. Pretty sure from the time every single every girl is born, every girl child is born, there's a lot of shame that is heaped on them. A lot of this stuff is people trying to find their politic through rebellion, through body positivity and all this stuff. It's deeper than these people have not thought about what India Ari said. They've just arrived at a different conclusion than she has.
Right.
But she want to be that type of person, call her pick me, whatever y'all want to call her. But I understand. The point I wanted to make is I understand it. I get her point. She's an auntie. She's of a certain age. She's of a certain vibe. She ain't alone. There's a lot of people that think like that. But I just don't think we have to give it any power. We can be like, yeah, we think that we hear your point, and we don't think it's as deep as you think it is.
Right. And it's also one of those things, a generational thing where the 20-year-olds are going, okay, old lady, beat it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or not even, I mean, there's women her age that have lived their whole life dressing and doing it different than her.
Yes, sir.
That's just her point of view, and that's fine. You don't have any power except for what you do with your body, and that's fine. You think, and honestly, it's gonna come to a point one day, I don't know when, but at some point, some of these people gonna not be nice about it. Right now, people are being nice about, like, at least to me, people seem to be nice about the, like, you can kind of talk shit about women twerking and shit with impunity. Even huge hypocrites like Snoop Dogg and JD, and all this, Jermaine Dupri and all this stuff. You can make money off the backs, literally, of women shaking their ass and then turn around and shame them for it. But someday people gonna actually stop being nice about it and confront them and not work with them and shit. And then we'll really see when the rubber meets the road. Because right now, the people twerking having too much fun, being free and living in their bodies. They don't care that you don't like it.
Right.
But I wouldn't be shocked if one of these people comes out and be like, nah, man, fuck India Ari. You know what I mean?
And like, they would have the right to do that because you called me out. I was minding my business and you going, you bitches and whores are shaking your ass. Like, well, bitch, fuck you.
Yeah, one day it's going to happen, I think. Anyway. Let's see. Comments on the website. I mean, on YouTube. My mom says an absolutely hilarious show. Especially get rid of the Supreme Court justice, replace them with referees. Oh my God. LOL. Thanks, Mom. And we have comments. We had a poll. Have you ever lived in another country? Yes or no? 48% yes, 51% no. That is a high percentage. 35% for the people with money. I'm shocked that it's high, that it's a lower percentage on Spotify for living outside the country. But also, I think Spotify might not be everywhere. So maybe there's some countries where they couldn't vote. And 65% say no.
I've thought about it. I'll talk aside. Like, I really have thought about it.
I think every black person's thought about it at this point.
Just to experience it, like what it is.
Oh, that's not why. No.
Oh, that and this country's fucked up too. Don't get me wrong. But it's initially where I go, you know what? It does sound better somewhere else. Racism is everywhere, y'all. Like,
I'm just joking, but I'm kind of serious. I'm like,
like
every black person in America every right thinking black person definitely consider not living in this motherfucker.
Like, can I afford that shit? Like, how long is them hours?
I could probably point out.
Am I gonna be in a different time zone?
I could probably point out several exact days that we thought collectively of leaving this country. January 6th. Is one of them days, the Trump inauguration, the Trump election, the election night. Like, there's so many days we've just been like, fuck, man, what them prices looking like in France? Did they racist that too? Shit. Oh man, but is it the same racism?
Yeah, right. Is it the same racism? Okay, I guess I have to learn another language.
Yeah. Happy National Workaholics Day was the Q&A.
What boss put that day together?
Right. Aaron says, love this episode. Hope you have Simeon on again sometime. Aaron says, y'all had me cracking up the whole episode. Oh, love to hear it. James says, good thing I had a day off from work on that day. Raphael says, Simeon reminded me of my Bahraini brunch days. I wouldn't last 2 hours there now, the way my alcohol tolerance is set up now. Good times, though. Chris says, my job is the sinking Titanic, and I'm trying to bucket out the water in the next few days. Good luck, Chris. And YRD sign says, all I do is work. That just sounds like a complaint. I'm sorry to hear that. All right, that's it for the comments and all that stuff. We're gonna get to the polls, but let me play some music so I know where to throw these commercials. Got funky at 30 seconds. All right, let's check the voicemail line. We have 2 voicemails this week. I'm trying to think. Is this one? Okay, yeah, we got. Okay, so this is the first one. I don't know who it's from now.
Rod, Karen, R and K. That's what's up, yo. I'm not gonna say my name right now because I'm high right now.
Okay.
So. Nothing I'm about to say is gonna make any sense. I love you guys. I love y'all. So y'all the best, actually. Love y'all. I promised myself I wasn't gonna do this. I promised I wasn't gonna do this. But I'm gonna need y'all to put some words on the Walking Dead episode. I know. I'm just like binge watching it right now, and I'm just going through a range of emotions. I'm like bawling my ass out right now. I'm just like, this is crazy. I'm not going to tell you what episode I'm on right now and where I'm at, like, and it's why I'm crying. But when you get there, you're going to cry too. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Okay. I just need y'all to put some words on it because y'all are the best at putting words on shows, yeah.
Okay.
Jesus, love y'all.
All right, I appreciate it. That's kind of energy I need to get motivated to do these recaps. So
some people are waiting on us.
Thank you. We also got another voicemail from Miss Barnes.
Hi, Rod and Karen. This is Miss Barnes. So I am playing catch up. I am woefully behind, and I don't know the name of or the number of the episode. But it was basically the episode where Karen was exercising her comedic voice, if that makes sense. Karen, you've always been hilarious, and I love you to pieces.
Oh, thank you.
I did notice that when you were on 3GO, it seems like your comedic voice got stronger, if that makes sense.
Oh.
Like, honestly, I felt like 3GO was your steroids if you were exercising that muscle.
Yes.
Because you fit in so flawlessly with the guys. And I was so amazed. And this was whenever Rod first went to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I had always been meaning to leave feedback like that, but it was like, okay, life just happened. So, and I forgot. But now I'm picking that back up. So I'm like, okay, yeah, it was one of the things that I did notice. And I was so amazed in just like, Karen, you've always been funny, but it just seemed like you absolutely just took off when you were on 3GO, just completely amazed. And so I just had to share that with you. But again, I forgot the number of the episode, so my apologies. Anyway, take care. Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you. And the thing about it, I know this might sound silly.
Hi, this is Ms. Lyons again.
I don't know why it played the next one without me hitting play, but go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, because I was giving a comment to what she just said.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about. I was like about the thunder. I was thinking.
I was looking at my phone because I got one of those like buzzing alerts. Apparently, we have a severe thunderstorm warning. But go ahead.
Okay, no problem. One thing about 3GO when I was with Andy and Randolph, it might sound silly to y'all, but for the first time, I felt like I was playing outside with the big kids. You know how when kids are small, they look all sad and they wish they could do the shit that they other friends was doing, but you like 2 and they 6 and y'all can't do the same thing. So you looking all sad and shit. And then eventually the 6-year-olds be like, okay, you can come out and play with us. But you better not fuck around and slow us down. You better run too. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt like, yeah, I can play. And I ran outside and I just kept up. And the more I kept up, the stronger I got till eventually I could roughhouse with them. And that's kind of, in my mind, that's kind of how I felt comedically.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always thought you were funny, but I think working with other people and being funny in those capacities always is helpful. It's the same thing with being guest on podcasts, same thing with game theory, having a guest on the podcast, all that stuff matters. And I think a lot of times it's just a matter of confidence and accepting of you're gonna try and you're gonna fail. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not gonna be as funny, sometimes jokes not gonna work,
and sometimes the joke is that you bombed.
Yeah, you can make, and everyone has their own sense of humor and their own thing. So, it's about that kind of stuff and learning to hone your own voice. And I think the audience knows it, and I think you know it, and I think we're all better for it.
Yeah, and also I think too, sometimes I realize everybody's mind ticks differently, and everybody makes different connections to what's funny and what's not funny. And I know it might sound weird when I say this, but it's hilarious when I tell a joke and you have to analyze, like, how did I make these connections in, like, your mind? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, okay, I must be getting too deep there, But it is a good thing that my jokes are somewhat challenging sometimes, and it's not always easy to, quote unquote, make those connections, which means I'm not reaching for the lower hanging fruit.
So actually, Rod, I wanted to mention that I do remember episode 2712 and 2713, where somebody decided to frame an Arby's and left a dead body in the freezer. Per EVE, who was correct, Arby's was framed. I don't understand. Somebody went ahead and just put a stuffed dummy in there and said it was a real body. Either way, Arby's was framed. I'll still continue to get my orange shake. EVE is the realest of MVPs here. Should get a Lifetime Achievement Award. That's all I wanted to say. Again, I love y'all. Have a good day.
I can't even laugh at that because I find it to be so disrespectful to the person who lost their life. Like an actual person did die in the Arby's.
You should. You got
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. It's a real, and it's sad. Honestly, it's sad and it's infuriating to watch y'all want to defend this restaurant, quote unquote, so badly that y'all will ignore the actual loss of a life. Somebody doesn't have a loved one now. There's a family that has a person who's no longer here on the earth, but y'all think it's time to get the jokes off about Arby's. See, the difference between me and y'all is that I'm never joking when I talk shit about Arby's. It's not funny to me. It's not a game. Okay? I'm not saying the food isn't good. Okay? If y'all want to eat the food and y'all find it to be delicious, that's fine. But we know they're not selling enough of that food to buy Buffalo Wild Wings and fucking Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme.
Everybody.
We know that that's a motherfucking drug laundering money conspiracy that's happening. And y'all are complicit to it. Okay? Now, we're all complicit because it's capitalism. But y'all are complicit. You don't have to still run PR for these motherfuckers. You don't have to. You don't have to be on the front lines blocking for them to run up the middle like a running back. You can just eat the food the way that people eat Chick-fil-A. People eat Chick-fil-A and they don't be doing like, well, no, actually, it's a conspiracy that they homophobic. They don't really give the money to Uganda to kill gay people. Nobody says that because they like, no, they homophobic, but the food is good. So I don't understand what the problem is, but I will never relent. I'll never lie for y'all. And I'm never going to let y'all come on my airwaves and lie unchallenged. So you should be disgusted and ashamed of yourself because there's nothing funny about what you just did. All right. Email time. Miss Crispo said, hey, Miss Crispo, been a while. Mm-hmm. Rod and maybe Karen, Your Pornosaurus slip is showing for not knowing Sukihana be lips out on the Twitters. Even our respectable professional Chase Demure school mom, Christian mother, wife, non-human synced that pussy everywhere video on the Twitter streets. Shaking my head, clutching my pearls. Y'all need to go back to school, update your firmware, or get demoted. Take away a degree or something. For shame. How about just a church hug? Pat, Miss Kissable. Yeah, I didn't know. Honestly, I did not know. I've since started following her on the IG and all that stuff, and it's still the same, thing for me, because even with actual like porn stars who don't make music, people don't just walk up on them and just be like, "I'm tonguing you down, bitch." Like, it's just, I don't know how those men lost that amount of control, but I think it's partially just because, I mean, who knows the exact reasons, but I have my suspicions as to why they feel like they can do that to her and not other women. Mandy says, "Dear Karen."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one's in for me? All right, well, next.
No, read it.
Oh, okay.
I can't see it.
Dear Karen, I just want to write to you in regards to the statement you made about how black women are not respected to win in higher positions like black men are. You are absolutely right. Black men are so respected and black women are disrespected, even if that white person may have some drawback about black people. I see it all the time outside of professional position settings. For an example, whenever a white woman is working or out and about, there's a black man in her presence. She is very nice, attentive, and flirtatious with black men, and black men give into it and get a big ego about it. I sit back and think at times, is she being like this towards a black man because he is a man, or because she wants the D? But when it comes to black women, a white woman or man does not act like that towards us. It's like being dismissive in a way. Black women are overworked and underpaid, but not respected regardless. It got me thinking about Georgina in the movie Get Out. She was crying out for help and tried to warn a black man about Rose's family, but Chris ignored her. She was dismissed and devalued, but still stayed strong and worked even though she knew and tried to warn black men about their demise. She was willing to do any and everything to protect and warn black men, but no, black men didn't care. Out of many victims, she was the only black woman. All I have to say is that thank you, Karen, for what you said about Malcolm X said it, because Malcolm X said it best. The most disrespected woman in America is the black woman, Mandy.
Oh, thank you, baby.
All right. And I have no comments because that was only for Karen. John says,
"You got comments? What do you got to say, sir?"
It was only for you, and I think that was a good moment of black womanness, and let's move on.
Okay.
All right. John saying, "Good morning."
You part of the show too?
If she wanted my opinion, she would have addressed it to me, Karen. It's fine. This is the disrespect that black women get. She said exactly what she meant, and I think we should respect that.
Okay.
Get well, etc. Good morning, Rod and Karen. Glad to hear you had a fairly easy time with COVID, though. Listening to you recounting it, I couldn't help but think that someone would take Rod out of context and say, "See, Rod and misses just like the flu." I thought about that too, but honestly, I don't give a fuck. Like, if somebody's a vaccine denialist type of person listening to this shit, good on them for making it this far into the pandemic. It felt like the flu to me. I assume that's because I'm vaccinated. And if anyone takes that out of context, good luck tangling with the coronavirus and no vaccine. Good luck. These submarine puns, man, y'all really sank to a new low. They were funny though. Couldn't even say they had me gasping for air. I will always treasure the jokes. Rod, as a true crime series fan, I highly recommend The Investigation on HBO, which is a Danish series about a real murder mystery of a prominent journalist that involves a do-it-yourself submarine. I don't think I've seen The Investigation, but if that's the same story, I saw Netflix. I saw the Netflix documentary about that dude in the submarine and that journalist that he possibly sexually assaulted and murdered in that submarine. So yeah, it was wild, but I haven't seen this.
Yeah, didn't we read an article or something about that? Yeah,
I just know the documentary I watched. I don't know about.
You might have been talking about it on the documentary. Yeah, that dude was nuts.
It's a real crazy story, very well done. It even has our boy Euron Greyjoy in it. there definitely seems to be some weird things with us whites and our desire to build things to challenge the undefeated Mother Nature. You see it a lot in the outdoors, camping communities. I think you're right that it is rooted in boredom, privilege, and believing the myths of white supremacy. Yeah, the thing with the submarine dude, at least if you're talking about the same story for that, is he murdered this journalist and then he came up on his own. Like, I don't know, I had got up and let her out of the submarine in the middle of the night because she just was like, I got a date or something. So I don't know what happened to the woman. Then I went back into the submarine and I hung out, and then this is news to me that she's missing. And it was like obvious he did the shit. It's like not really that big of a mystery when you just start having common sense. I really enjoyed the episode with Mike Brown, especially the discussion about the ridiculous obsession on the left with trying to find some one weird trick solution, short-term solution to problems that take decades to resolve.
Right.
It's especially ridiculous when you consider the fact that the Supreme Court is just making shit up at this point.
Yes,
That's
they
what's so
are.
frustrating, is that most of us knew this would happen and we were shouting warnings in 2016.
Mhm.
I have an even bigger problem. I think maybe most of us knew. That's a little, we maybe even not then, but I think those of us who did know, a lot of them weren't shouting, and that the PR battle was won in 2016 by the people that were shaming. Like, this is the thing about the people that say don't shame people for not voting.
Right.
They shame us for voting.
Yes.
They shame us for voting Democrat. They shame us for trying to fix this fucked up ass world and this system, for participating in it to fix it. They shame us all the goddamn time. They call us all kinds of fucking names and shit. They want us to have pie in the sky solutions, like just, we don't need a plan, just put Bernie Sanders in charge and he'll do it like a king or some shit. And if you question that at all, if you say, well, how the fuck are we going to do that? If you say, I just need more details, they dismiss you out of hand. So it's weird that shame's supposed to work one way, you know? So I think 2016, and I feel like I was part of this problem, for the record, I was not bold enough in saying, no, absolutely the fuck not. And one of the reasons I still have so much passion about voting and specifically assigning blame and specifically talking about politics and not nebulous discussion points like many people do, where they just make it seem like, well, they don't kind of suck. You just don't like to fucking read.
Right.
You just don't care about details. Your head is too fucking you feel too overwhelmed when you talk about it. So you feel like you have to have some neutral point. There is no neutrality in what we are experiencing right the fuck now, because neutrality has gone to the wayside. We are not allowed to be neutral anymore. What can you be neutral on? Gay rights? They're not leaving anything. Race? They're not leaving any middle ground anymore. This is the simplest fucking time we have ever had when it comes to voting and politicians. The simplest. Probably since the Civil War, maybe. There's just a right and fucking wrong right now. And there's one side that is dedicated to fucking wrong. I do not understand the appeal, and I don't understand giving them an out with the, I'm just going to talk about why the Democrats aren't perfect or what they didn't do. Well, it would be nice if we had an alternative. We actually fucking don't.
Right.
The other side is the opposite in every goddamn way. So to me, I don't understand the appeal, and I think it's a trick of white supremacy and whiteness,
Yes.
that to make you think being neutral means just sitting in the middle and doing nothing as the world turns to shit. It's a trick. You go, well, that's the default. It's like when people say, I cover politics, but I don't, say the Democrats or the Republicans are good or bad. Well, you fucking should, journalist who's not going to have any rights under the Trump administration. You fucking should have a side.
Right.
You're not doing anyone a favor pretending to be neutral. CNN's not doing us a favor bringing on Republicans to lie and then bringing on actual experts in their field to sit across the table from people who are just going to fucking lie and not have facts. You're not helping. You're participating in the cover for these evil motherfuckers. So to me, it felt like 2016 should have been a lesson that everyone took to heart, and the people that still haven't, fuck them. Let's say Hillary told us about the Supreme Court. Trump told people the election was about the Supreme Court. I mean, it really wasn't complicated, but here we are. Oh, well, time to get back to soldering these aluminum cans together to build my homemade Zeppelin. Good luck, buddy. We'll love to talk about you on the news. Cheers and stay safe, John. Thanks, John.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's everybody. That's all the feedback. Appreciate y'all. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, we have Michael Harriet. You might know from the Griot, from the Root, and from the upcoming Drake the Maniacs podcast. We'll have him on the show tomorrow. I think it's at 10 a.m. So we'll see y'all then. Until then, I love you.
I love you too.
Mwah. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye. Peace.